This is your simple and structured way to read the Bible daily, completing the entire book in just 365 days. If you're just joining us, don't worry. Start today with our 89th edition of this year-long journey. The full series link is available in the description, so you can catch up anytime. Life is full of choices, and sometimes the consequences of those choices can last for generations. Today, as we continue with 2 Samuel chapters 17 through 20, we witness David navigating betrayal, rebellion, and the cost of divided loyalties. His son Absalom's uprising puts David's leadership to the test, showing us the devastating effects of pride, ambition, and unchecked conflict. Yet through it all, God's hand remains at work. Your dedication to this journey is truly inspiring. If this series has been a blessing, take a moment to like, share, and invite someone else to follow along. Reading the Bible is always richer when done together. Tomorrow, in day 90, we'll move forward with 2 Samuel chapters 21 through 24, where we'll witness the closing events of David's reign and powerful moments of reflection and restoration. You won't want to miss it. As we begin today's reading, take a moment to reflect. How do my choices today shape the future? Am I seeking God's wisdom in decisions that have lasting impact? Let's get right in. 2 Samuel chapter 17. Moreover, Ahithophel said to Absalom, "Let me now choose 12,000 men, and I will arise and pursue David tonight. And I will come upon him while he is weary and weak-handed, and make him afraid. And all the people who are with him will flee, and I will strike down only the king, and I will bring back all the people to you. When all return except the man whom you seek, then all the people will be at peace." So the saying pleased Absalom and all the elders of Israel. Then Absalom said, "Now call Hushai the Archite also, and let us hear what he says too." And when Hushai came to Absalom, Absalom spoke to him, saying, "Ahithophel has spoken like this. Shall we do as he says? If not, speak up." So Hushai said to Absalom, "The advice that Ahithophel has given is not good at this time. For you know, your father and his men, that they are mighty men, and they are enraged in their minds like a bear robbed of her cubs out in the wild. And besides, your father is a man of war and will not spend the night with the people. Look, he is hidden now in some pit or in another similar place. And it will be when some of them have fallen at first, that whoever hears it will say, 'There is a slaughter among the people who follow Absalom.' And even he who is valiant, whose heart is like the heart of a lion, will melt away. For all Israel knows that your father is a mighty man, and those who are with him are brave men. Therefore I advise that all Israel be fully gathered to you from Dan to Beersheba as the sand that is by the sea for multitude, and that you go to battle in person. So we will come upon him in some place where he may be found, and we will fall on him as the dew falls on the ground. And of him and all the men who are with him there shall not be left so much as one. If he withdraws into a city, then all Israel shall bring ropes to that city, and we will pull it into the river until there is not one small stone found there." Then Absalom and all the men of Israel said, "The counsel of Hushai the Archite is better than the counsel of Ahithophel." For the Lord had purposed to defeat the good counsel of Ahithophel, to the intent that the Lord might bring calamity on Absalom. Now Hushai said to Zadok and Abiathar the priests, "Ahithophel advised Absalom and the elders of Israel according to this plan. Now therefore send quickly and tell David, saying, 'Do not spend this night in the plains of the wilderness, but by all means cross over, lest the king and all the people who are with him be swallowed up.'" Now Jonathan and Ahimaaz were staying by En-Rogel, for they dared not be seen coming into the city, so a female servant would come and tell them, and they would go and tell King David. But a lad saw them and told Absalom Semach. So both of them went away quickly and came to a man's house in Bahurim, which had a well in its courtyard, and they went down into it. And the woman took and spread a covering over the well's mouth and spread ground grain on it, so nothing was known. When Absalom's servants came to the woman at the house, they said, "Where are Ahimaaz and Jonathan?" And the woman said, "They have gone over the water brook." So when they had searched and could not find them, they returned to Jerusalem. Now it came to pass, after they had gone, that they came up out of the well, and went and told King David, and said to David, "Arise and cross over the water quickly." for thus Ahithophel has counseled against you." So David and all the people who were with him arose and crossed over the Jordan. By morning light, not one of them was left who had not gone over the Jordan. When Ahithophel saw that his counsel was not followed, he saddled a donkey and arose and went home to his house to his city. And he put his household in order and hanged himself and died and was buried in his father's tomb. Then David came to Mahanaim, and Absalom crossed over the Jordan, he and all the men of Israel with him. And Absalom made Amasa captain of the army instead of Joab. Now Amasa was the son of a man whose name was Ithra, an Israelite, who had gone in to Abigail, the daughter of Nahash, sister of Zeruiah, Joab's mother. So Israel and Absalom encamped in the land of Gilead. Now it happened when David had come to Mahanaim, that Shobi the son of Nahash from Rabbah of the people of Ammon, Tobijah the son of Ishmael the Ammonite, and Barzillai the Gileadite from Rogelim, brought beds and basins and earthen vessels and wheat, barley, flour, honey, and sheep and cheese of the herd for David and the people who were with him to eat. For they said, "The people are hungry and weary and thirsty in the wilderness." This concludes 2 Samuel chapter 17. 2 Samuel chapter 18. Then David numbered the people who were with him and set captains of thousands and captains of hundreds over them. And David sent out 1/3 of the people under the hand of Joab, another third under the hand of Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, Joab's brother, and the other third under the hand of Ittai the Gittite. David said to the people, "You shall surely go out also with me." But the people answered, "You shall not go out, for if we flee, they will not care about us, nor if half of us die, will they care. But you are worth 10,000 of us now. Therefore it is better that you be ready to help us from the city." The king said to them, "Do what seems best to you." So the king stood beside the gate as all the people went out by hundreds and by thousands. The king commanded Joab, Abishai, and Ittai, saying, "Deal gently for my sake with the young man Absalom." And all the people heard when the king gave orders to all the commanders concerning Absalom. So the people went out into the field of battle against Israel, and a battle was fought in the woods of Ephraim. The people of Israel were defeated there before the servants of David, and a great slaughter occurred there that day, 20,000 men. For the battle there was scattered over the face of the whole countryside, and the woods devoured more people that day than the sword devoured. Now Absalom met the servants of David. Absalom rode on a mule, and the mule went under the thick boughs of a great terebinth tree, and his head caught in the terebinth, so he was left hanging between heaven and earth. Meanwhile, the mule which was under him went on, and a certain man saw it and told Joab and said, "I just saw Absalom hanging in a terebinth tree." Then Joab said to the man who told him, "You just saw him, and why did you not strike him there to the ground? I would have given you 10 shekels of silver and a belt." But the man said to Joab, "Though I were to receive 1,000 shekels of silver in my hand, I would not raise my hand against the king's son. For in our hearing the king commanded you and Abishai and Ittai, saying, 'Beware, lest any one of you touch the young man Absalom.' Otherwise, I would have dealt falsely against my own life. For there is nothing hidden from the king, and you yourself would have set yourself against me." Then Joab said, "I cannot linger with you." So he took 3 spears in his hand and thrust them through Absalom's heart while he was still alive in the midst of the terebinth tree. And 10 young men who bore Joab's armor surrounded Absalom and struck and killed him. Then Joab blew the trumpet, and the people returned from pursuing Israel. For Joab held back the people, and they took Absalom and cast him into a large pit in the woods and laid a very great heap of stones over him. And all Israel fled to their tents. Now Absalom in his lifetime had taken and set up a pillar for himself, which is in the king's valley. For he said, "I have no son to keep my name in remembrance." And he called the pillar after his own name, and it is called Absalom's monument to this day. Then Ahimaaz the son of Zadok said, "Let me run now and take the news to the king how the Lord has avenged him of his enemies." And Joab said to him, "You shall not bear news today, but you shall bear news another day. But today you shall bear no news, because the king's son is dead." Then Joab said to the Cushite, "Go tell the king what you have seen." The Cushite bowed himself to Joab and ran. Then Ahimaaz the son of Zadok said again to Joab, "But whatever happens, let me also run after the Cushite." And Joab said, "Why will you run, my son, since you have no news ready? But whatever happens, let me run." And he said to him, "Run." Then Ahimaaz ran by way of the plain and outran the Cushite. Now David sat between the two gates, and the watchman went up to the roof over the gate to the wall, and lifted his eyes and looked, and behold, a man running alone. The watchman cried out and told the king, and the king said, "If he is alone, there is news in his mouth." And he came rapidly and drew near. Then the watchman saw another man running, and the watchman called to the gatekeeper and said, "Behold, another man running alone." And the king said, "He also brings news." The watchman said, "I think the running of the first is like the running of Ahimaaz the son of Zadok." And the king said, "He is a good man, and comes with good news." So Ahimaaz called out and said to the king, "All is well." And he bowed down with his face to the earth before the king and said, "Blessed be the Lord your God, who has delivered up the men who raised their hand against my lord the king." The king said, "Is the young man Absalom safe?" And Ahimaaz answered, "When Joab sent the king's servant and me, your servant, I saw a great tumult, but I did not know what it was." And the king said, "Turn aside and stand here." So he turned aside and stood still. Then behold, the Cushite came, and the Cushite said, "Good tidings, my lord the king, for the Lord has avenged you this day of all those who rose against you." The king said to the Cushite, "Is the young man Absalom safe?" So the Cushite answered, "May the enemies of my lord the king and all who rise against you to do harm be as that young man." And the king was deeply moved, and went up to the chamber over the gate and wept. And as he went, he said, "O my son Absalom, my son Absalom, if only I had died in your place. O Absalom, my son, my son." This concludes 2 Samuel chapter 18. Then Joab was told, "Behold, the king is weeping and mourning for Absalom." And the victory that day was turned into mourning for all the people. For the people heard it said, "The king is grieved for his son." So the people stole back into the city that day, as people who are ashamed steal away when they flee in battle. But the king covered his face and cried out with a loud voice, "O my son Absalom, O Absalom, my son, my son." Then Joab came into the house to the king and said, "You have disgraced this day the faces of all your servants who today have saved your life, those of your sons and daughters, your wives and concubines. For you love your enemies and hate your friends. For you have declared today that you regard neither princes nor servants. For I know this day that if Absalom had lived and all we had died today, then you would be pleased. Therefore arise now, go out and speak comfort to your servants. For I swear by the Lord, if you do not go out, not one will stay with you this night. And that will be worse for you than all the evil that has befallen you from your youth until now." Then the king arose and sat in the gate, and they told all the people, saying, "There is the king sitting in the gate." So all the people came before the king. But Israel had fled every man to his tent. Now all the people were quarreling throughout all the tribes of Israel, saying, "The king delivered us from the hand of our enemies. He saved us from the hand of the Philistines, and now he has fled from the land because of Absalom. And Absalom, whom we anointed over us, is dead in battle. Now therefore, why do you say nothing about bringing the king back?" And King David sent to Zadok and Abiathar the priests, saying, "Speak to the elders of Judah, saying, Why are you the last to bring the king back to his house? Since the talk of all Israel has come to the king, even to his house. You are my brethren, you are my bone and my flesh. Why then are you the last to bring back the king? And say to Amasa, Is your sword against me all the days as it was against the man who was formerly captain of the army? If it is otherwise, may God do so to me, and more also, if you are not captain of the army before me continually in place of Joab." So he swayed the hearts of all the men of Judah as though they were one man. And they sent to the king, "Return now, you and all your servants." Then the king returned and came to the Jordan. And Judah came to Gilgal to go to meet the king, to escort him over the Jordan. And Shimei the son of Gera, a Benjamite from Bahurim, hurried and came down with the men of Judah to meet King David. There were 1,000 men of Benjamin with him, and Ziba the servant of the house of Saul, and his 15 sons and 20 servants with him. And they went over the Jordan before the king. Then there went over a ferry boat to carry over the king's household and to do what he thought good Bez. And Shimei the son of Gera fell down before the king as he was crossing over the Jordan. Then he said to the king, "Let not my lord impute iniquity to me, or remember what wrong your servant did on the day that my lord the king left Jerusalem, lest the king should take it to heart. For your servant knows that I have sinned. Therefore here I am today, the first from the house of Joseph, to come down to meet my lord the king." But Abishai the son of Zeruiah answered and said, "Shall not Shimei be put to death for this, because he cursed the Lord's anointed?" And David said, "What have I to do with you, you sons of Zeruiah, that you should be adversaries to me today? Shall any man be put to death today in Israel? For do I not know that today I am king over Israel?" Therefore the king said to Shimei, "You shall not die." And the king swore to him. Now Mephibosheth, the son of Saul, came down to meet the king, and he had neither cared for his feet, trimmed his mustache, nor washed his clothes from the day the king departed until the day he returned in peace. So it was when he had come to Jerusalem to meet the king that the king said to him, "Why did you not go with me, Mephibosheth?" He answered, "My lord, O king, my servant deceived me. For your servant said, I will saddle a donkey for myself, that I may ride on it and go to the king, because your servant is lame. And he has slandered your servant to my lord the king. But my lord the king is like the angel of God. Therefore do what is good in your eyes, for all my father's house were but dead men before my lord the king. Yet you set your servant among those who eat at your own table. Therefore what right have I still to cry out any more to the king?" Then the king said to him, "Why do you speak any more of your matters? I have said you and Ziba divide the land." Mephibosheth said to the king, "Let him take it all, since my lord the king has come back in peace to his own house." Now Barzillai the Gileadite came down from Rogelim and went across the Jordan with the king to escort him across the Jordan. Barzillai was a very aged man, 80 years old, and he had provided the king with supplies while he stayed at Mahanaim, for he was a very rich man. The king said to Barzillai, "Come with me, and I will provide for you while you are with me in Jerusalem." But Barzillai said to the king, "How long have I to live that I should go up with the king to Jerusalem? I am today 80 years old. Can I discern between the good and the bad? Can your servant taste what I eat or what I drink? Can I hear any longer the voice of singing men and singing women? Why then should your servant be a further burden to my lord the king? Your servant will go a little way across the Jordan with the king. And why does my lord reward me with such a reward? Please let your servant return, that I may die in my own city, near the grave of my father and mother. But here is your servant Chimham. Let him cross over with my lord the king, and do for him what seems good to you." Then the king answered and said, "Chimham shall cross over with me, and I will do for him what seems good to you, and whatever you request of me, I will do for you." So all the people went over the Jordan. And when the king had crossed over, the king kissed Barzillai and blessed him, and he returned to his own place. When the king had crossed over to Gilgal, Chimham had crossed over with him. All the people of Judah escorted the king, and also half the people of Israel. Just then all the men of Israel came to the king and said to the king, "Why have our brethren, the men of Judah, stolen you away and brought the king's household, and all David's men with him across the Jordan?" So all the men of Judah answered the men of Israel, "Because the king is near of kin to us. Why then are you angry over this matter? Have we eaten at all of the king's expense, or has he given us any gift?" And the men of Israel answered the men of Judah and said, "We have 10 shares in the king, therefore we also have more right to David than you. Why then did you despise us, that our advice should not be first in bringing back our king?" And the words of the men of Judah were fiercer than the words of the men of Israel. This concludes 2 Samuel chapter 19. We will now move on to 2 Samuel chapter 20. And there happened to be there a rebel whose name was Sheba the son of Bichri, a Benjamite. And he blew a trumpet and said, "We have no share in David, nor do we have inheritance in the son of Jesse. Every man to his tents, O Israel." So every man of Israel deserted David and followed Sheba the son of Bichri. But the men of Judah remained loyal to their king from the Jordan as far as Jerusalem. When David came to his house at Jerusalem, David sent 10 women concubines whom he had left to keep the house, and he placed them under guard and supported them, but did not go into them. They were shut up to the day of their death, living in widowhood. Then the king said to Amasa, "Assemble the men of Judah for me within 3 days, and be present here yourself." So Amasa went to assemble the men of Judah, but he delayed longer than the set time which David had appointed him. And David said to Abishai, "Now Sheba the son of Bichri will do us more harm than Absalom. Take your lord's servants and pursue him, lest he find for himself fortified cities and escape from our eyes." So Joab's men went out after him, along with the Cherethites and the Pelethites and all the mighty men. And they went out of Jerusalem to pursue Sheba the son of Bichri. When they were at the great stone which is in Gibeon, Amasa came before them. Now Joab was dressed in battle armor. He had on an outer garment, and over it was a belt with a sword fastened in its sheath at his hips. And as he was going forward, it fell out. Then Joab said to Amasa, "Are you in health, my brother?" And Joab took Amasa by the beard with his right hand to kiss him. But Amasa did not notice the sword that was in Joab's hand. And Joab struck him with it in the stomach and spilled his entrails on the ground, and did not strike him again. And he died. So Joab and Abishai his brother pursued Sheba the son of Bichri. One of Joab's men stood beside him and said, "Whoever favors Joab, and whoever is for David, let him follow Joab." But Amasa lay wallowing in his blood in the middle of the highway. And when the man saw that all the people stood still, he moved Amasa from the highway to the field and threw a garment over him when he saw that everyone who came by him stood still. When he was removed from the highway, all the people went on after Joab to pursue Sheba the son of Bichri. Now he went through all the tribes of Israel to Abel and Beth-maachah and all the Berites, and they were gathered together and also went after him. And they came and besieged him in Abel of Beth-maachah, and they cast up a siege mound against the city, and it stood by the rampart, and all the people who were with Joab battered the wall to throw it down. Then a wise woman cried out from the city, "Hear, hear, say now to Joab, come near so that I may speak with you." When he had come near to her, she said, "Are you Joab?" And he answered, "I am." And she said to him, "Listen to the words of your maidservant." And he answered, "I am listening." Then she spoke, saying, "Formerly they would say, if one has a dispute, let him go to Abel, and so they settled it. I am among the peaceable and faithful in Israel. You seek to destroy a city and a mother in Israel. Why would you swallow up the inheritance of the Lord?" And Joab answered and said, far be it from me that I should swallow up or destroy. That is not so. The matter is not like that. But a man from the mountains of Ephraim, Sheba, the son of Bichri by name, has raised his hand against the king, against David. Deliver him only, and I will depart from the city. So the woman said to Joab, "Watch, his head will be thrown to you over the wall." Then the woman in her wisdom went to all the people, and they cut off the head of Sheba the son of Bichri, and threw it out to Joab. So he blew a trumpet, and they withdrew from the city, every man to his tent. And Joab returned to the king at Jerusalem. Now Joab was over all the army of Israel. Benaiah the son of Jehoiada was over the Cherethites and the Pelethites. Adoram was in charge of the revenue. Jehoshaphat the son of Ahilud was recorder. Sheva was scribe. Zadok and Abiathar were the priests. And Ira the Jairite was a priest to David. This concludes 2 Samuel chapter 20. The stories we've read today remind us that choices carry weight, not just for ourselves, but for those around us and even future generations. David's journey was marked by victories and failures, yet through it all, God's sovereignty remained unshaken. No matter where we find ourselves, we can trust that God is working behind the scenes, guiding us when we seek Him. If today's reading encouraged you, take a moment to like, share, and invite someone to join this journey. Engaging with Scripture daily shapes our faith, and it's even more meaningful when shared with others. Tomorrow, on day 90, we'll complete 2 Samuel with chapters 21 through 24. These final passages reflect on David's reign, revealing moments of judgment, mercy, and God's enduring faithfulness. Don't miss it. Before we go, take a moment to reflect. What choices am I making today that will shape my future? Let's carry these lessons forward, seeking God's wisdom in all we do.